The corridor was quiet. To quiet, Kate Middleton's heels clicked softly against the polished marble floor of Buckingham Palace. She carried a folder under her arm, nothing unusual. Just another afternoon inside the walls, where history lived and breathed. But something felt different today. The air was heavier. The silence pressed against her chest. She glanced over her shoulder. No one. Still, the feeling wouldn't leave. Kate had learned to trust her instincts over the years. Being part of the royal family meant walking through invisible minefields every single day. A wrong word. A misunderstood glance. Everything mattered. Everything was watched. She turned the corner near the East Gallery. The afternoon light poured through the tall windows, casting long shadows across the red carpet. Beautiful. Peaceful. But Kate's heartbeat quickened. Then she heard footsteps. Fast. Deliberate. She stopped. The footsteps stopped too. Kate turned slowly. At the far end of the corridor stood Camilla, the queen consort. Her expression was unreadable, but her eyes were fixed directly on Kate. No smile, no warmth. Just a cold, steady gaze. Kate's stomach tightened. "Camilla," she said, keeping her voice calm. "I didn't realize you were here." Camilla didn't answer right away. She began walking forward, each step slow and measured. The sound echoed off the high ceilings. Kate felt her pulse in her throat. "We need to talk," Camilla said finally. Her voice was low, almost a whisper, but it carried weight. Alone. Kate's mind raced. She thought of William, of the children, of the hundreds of conversations and tensions that had simmered beneath the surface for years, things left unsaid. Boundaries quietly crossed. "Of course," Kate replied, her voice steady despite the unease crawling up her spine. "What's this about?" Camilla stopped a few feet away. Her hands were clasped in front of her, fingers intertwined tightly. She tilted her head slightly, studying Kate like a puzzle she was trying to solve. "You've been making decisions," Camilla said softly. "Decisions that affect the family. Decisions that weren't yours to make." Kate blinked. "I'm sorry, I don't understand." "You understand perfectly," Camilla interrupted. Her tone sharpened. "You've been stepping outside your role, Kate, and it's becoming a problem." The words hit like ice water. Kate felt her chest tighten. She had always been careful, always respectful. She followed protocol, honored traditions, stayed in her lane. Or so she thought. "I think there's been a misunderstanding," Kate said, choosing her words carefully. "If I've overstepped, it wasn't intentional." Camilla's lips pressed into a thin line. She took another step closer. Too close. "Intentions don't matter," she said quietly. "Results do. And right now, your actions are causing ... complications." Kate's hands trembled slightly. She gripped the folder tighter, using it to ground herself. She wanted to leave, needed to leave. But Camilla was standing between her and the nearest exit. Then, without warning, the sound of boots echoed down the corridor, heavy, purposeful. Both women turned. A royal guard appeared from the adjacent hallway. Tall, stone-faced, dressed in full uniform. His eyes flicked between Camilla and Kate, assessing the situation in an instant. "Your Royal Highness," he said, addressing Kate with a respectful nod. Then he turned to Camilla. "Ma'am." The air shifted. Camilla's expression changed. Just slightly. A flicker of surprise. Maybe annoyance. The guard didn't move. He simply stood there, a silent presence that changed everything. And in that moment, Kate realized something. This wasn't a coincidence. Someone had been watching. Someone had sent him. Before anyone could speak, the story took a turn nobody expected. ... Asterisk, the guard cleared his throat. His gaze remained professional, but there was something protective in the way he positioned himself. Not directly between them, but close enough to be unmistakable. "I was instructed to escort the Princess of Wales to the private wing," he said calmly. "The prince is waiting." Kate felt a wave of relief wash over her. William, of course, he must have known. Somehow, he'd known she needed help. Camilla's jaw tightened. Her eyes darted to the guard, then back to Kate. For a moment, no one moved. The tension crackled like electricity in the air. "We weren't finished," Camilla said, her voice controlled but firm. The guard remained unmoved. "With respect, ma'am, the prince's request was urgent." Kate seized the moment. "Thank you, officer," she said quietly. She turned to Camilla, forcing herself to meet those cold eyes one more time. "We can continue this conversation another time. When it's more appropriate." She didn't wait for permission. Kate walked past Camilla, her heart hammering in her chest. The guard fell into step beside her, his presence a shield she desperately needed. Behind them, Camilla stood frozen in the corridor, watching, silent, as they rounded the corner and distance grew between them. Kate finally exhaled. Her hands were still shaking. "Thank you," she whispered to the guard. He didn't respond immediately. They walked in silence through another long corridor, past portraits of kings and queens who had faced their own battles within these walls. Finally, as they approached a private door, the guard spoke. His voice was low, meant only for her ears. "This isn't the first time, Your Royal Highness." It stopped walking. She turned to face him, confusion and curiosity mixing on her face. "What do you mean?" The guard glanced down the empty hallway, ensuring they were truly alone. When he looked back at Kate, there was something different in his eyes. Not pity, but understanding. Like he'd seen too much and carried too many secrets. "There have been other conversations," he said carefully. "Other moments in corridors where you weren't present, but your name was." Kate's blood ran cold. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying," the guard continued, measuring each word, "that what just happened wasn't spontaneous. It was planned. And it won't be the last attempt." The words hung heavy in the air between them. Kate felt the walls closing in, even in this spacious palace. She'd known royal life would be difficult. She'd prepared herself for scrutiny, for pressure, for the weight of expectation. But this felt different. Personal. Targeted. "Why are you telling me this?" Kate asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The guard's expression softened just slightly. "Because I was there the day your husband became a father. I saw the way he looked at you. Like you were his entire world. And I know what happens to good people in this place when they have no one watching their back." Kate's throat tightened with emotion. She'd felt so alone lately, so unsure of who to trust. And here was this man, this stranger in uniform, offering her something she desperately needed. The truth. "What should I do?" she asked. The guard reached for the door handle but paused. "Document everything. Every conversation, every confrontation, every strange moment. Keep records. And trust your instincts, Your Royal Highness. They've served you well so far." He opened the door. Inside, Kate could see William standing by the window, his back to them. His shoulders were tense, hands clasped behind him. He turned when he heard the door open. The relief on his face was immediate. He crossed the room in 3 long strides and pulled Kate into his arms without a word. She melted into him, finally feeling safe. The guard bowed slightly. "Your Royal Highness," he said to William. Then, with a final glance at Kate, a look that said, "Be careful," he left. Closing the door softly behind him, William pulled back to look at Kate's face. His hands cupped her cheeks gently. "Are you all right?" he asked, searching her eyes. "I heard she cornered you. How did you know?" Kate asked. William's jaw clenched. "Because it happened to my mother, too." The revelation hit Kate like a physical blow. Diana, of course. History wasn't just repeating, it was echoing through the palace walls, through decades of carefully hidden conflicts. "William, we need to talk about what's really happening here," Kate said, her voice steady now, determined. He nodded slowly. "No, and I think it's time you knew everything." He walked to his desk and pulled out a drawer. From inside, he retrieved a small leather journal, old, worn. Kate recognized it immediately from photographs. Diana's journal. "My mother wrote about things she could never say out loud," William said quietly. "Things she needed someone to know. I think it's time you read it." He handed the journal to Kate. Her fingers trembled as she took it. On the first page, in elegant handwriting, were words that made Kate's heart stop. If you're reading this, then the same thing is happening to you. Suddenly everything made sense. Kate sat down slowly, the journal resting in her lap, like something sacred. William stood beside her, his hand on her shoulder. She could feel the weight of what she was about to discover. The pages were filled with Diana's handwriting. Some entries were calm and measured. Others were rushed, written in moments of fear or anger. Kate began to read. "They want you to doubt yourself," Diana had written. "They'll corner you in private spaces. No witnesses, no proof. Just their word against yours. And they'll make you feel like you're imagining things. Like you're the problem." Kate's breath caught. It was exactly what had just happened. She turned the page. More entries. More truths. Camilla has always been strategic. She doesn't work alone. There are others who want to see certain people pushed aside, made to feel small, made to leave. The goal isn't confrontation. It's erosion. Slow. Steady. Until you break. Kate looked up at William. His eyes were red-rimmed, filled with old pain. "Why didn't you show me this before?" she asked gently. "'Cause I hoped it would be different for you," William said, his voice cracking. "I hoped she'd changed. That time had softened things. But I was wrong." Kate reached for his hand. She understood now why he'd seemed so protective lately. Why he'd insisted on certain protocols. Why he always seemed to know where she was. He'd been trying to shield her from the same fate that destroyed his mother. "There's more," William said quietly. He sat down beside her. "That guard who helped you today, his name is Officer Daniels. He was assigned to my mother during her last years in the palace. He saw things, heard things, things that were never made public." Kate's mind raced. "Is he trustworthy?" "He's one of the few who is," William replied. "After my mother died, he requested a transfer. Couldn't stomach what had happened. But when he heard I was bringing you into the family, he requested to come back. Said he wouldn't let history repeat itself." Kate felt tears prick her eyes. Strangers protecting her, fighting battles she didn't even know were being waged. "Now, what does Camilla want?" Kate asked. "Why target me?" William stood and walked to the window. Outside, the palace gardens stretched out in perfect symmetry. Beautiful on the surface. But beneath, hidden complexities. Secrets buried in the soil. "It's about power," William said. "It's always been about power. You represent the future, the next generation, and there are people who see that as a threat. They want to control the narrative. Control who has influence." He turned back to face her. "You're loved by the public, Kate, more than anyone in the family right now. You connect with people. You're genuine, and that scares them." Kate stood, still clutching the journal. "So what do I do?" "Hide. Stay silent." "No," William said firmly. He crossed the room and took both her hands in his. "We fight. But we fight smart. We document everything, just like Officer Daniels said. We build our own network of people we can trust. And we never, ever let them see you break." Kate nodded. Strength flooded through her veins. This wasn't just about her anymore. It was about protecting their children. About changing the system from within. "I need to talk to Officer Daniels," she said. "Properly. I need to know everything." William smiled slightly. The first real smile she'd seen from him all day. "I thought you might say that." "He's waiting in the east drawing room." They walked together through the palace, hand in hand. Kate felt different now. Not scared. Not uncertain. Determined. When they entered the drawing room, Officer Daniels stood near the fireplace. Out of uniform now, dressed in plain clothes. He looked older in this light. Tired, but his eyes were sharp and kind. "Your Royal Highness," he said with a bow. "Please," Kate said. Just Kate is fine. "If we're going to do this, we need to be honest with each other." Daniels nodded. "Fair enough. Then call me James." "What?" They sat together. The three of them. James pulled out a small notebook from his jacket pocket. It was filled with dates, times, observations, years of watching and waiting. "I've been keeping records since I returned to the palace," James explained. "Every strange interaction, every suspicious meeting, Every time someone tried to isolate you, Kate, it's all here. Kate leaned forward. Show me. James opened the notebook to a recent page. Kate's eyes widened as she read. The incidents he'd documented weren't just about Camilla. There were others involved. Staff members who'd been feeding information, advisors who'd been planting doubts, a whole network designed to undermine her. This is bigger than I thought, Kate whispered. It always is, James said quietly. But here's the thing they don't expect. You're not Diana. You have something she didn't. What's that? Kate asked. James looked at William, then back at Kate. You have a partner who learned from his mistakes, who won't let you face this alone. And you have time to prepare, to build your defenses before they escalate. William squeezed Kate's hand. We're in this together. Kate felt the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders, but it didn't crush her. It anchored her, gave her purpose. So what's our first move? She asked. James flipped to a blank page in his notebook. We start by identifying everyone in your inner circle. Then we determine who's loyal and who's compromised. Well, as they began to plan, none of them noticed the shadow that passed by the drawing room door. A figure who'd been listening, who'd heard every word, and by morning, the palace would be buzzing with whispers that would change everything. ... The next morning arrived cold and gray. Kate woke early, her mind already racing. She'd barely slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Camilla's face in that corridor. Those calculating eyes, that controlled voice. But today felt different. Today, she wasn't walking into the palace blind. William had already left for an early meeting. Kate found a note on his pillow. Stay alert. Trust your instincts. I love you. She got dressed carefully, choosing a navy blue dress that projected strength, confidence, as she fastened her pearl necklace. She caught her reflection in the mirror. The woman staring back looked tired but determined. Her phone buzzed. A text from James. Staff meeting at 9. Several people watching you. Be careful. Kate took a deep breath. The performance was about to begin. She made her way to the morning briefing room. Staff members were already gathered, shuffling papers, whispering to each other. When Kate entered, several heads turned. Some smiled warmly. Others looked away too quickly. Kate noted each reaction. Just like James had taught her, the meeting proceeded normally at first. Schedules were discussed. Events were planned. But Kate felt the undercurrent, the tension that hummed beneath every polite word. Then Camilla arrived. The room shifted immediately. People sat up straighter. Voices lowered. Camilla took her seat at the head of the table with practiced grace, her eyes sweeping the room before landing on Kate. Good morning, Catherine, Camilla said smoothly, using her formal name, creating distance. Good morning, Kate replied, matching her tone, polite, professional, giving nothing away. The meeting continued, but Kate noticed something. Every time she spoke, a particular advisor named Margaret would glance at Camilla. Subtle, quick, but there. A silent communication. Margaret. Kate made a mental note. She'd seen that name in James's notebook. As the meeting wrapped up, Camilla stood. Catherine, a word please? In my private office, wasn't a request. It was a command. Kate's heart rate spiked, but she kept her face neutral. Of course, they walked in silence through the corridors. Different ones this time. More public, more cameras. Camilla was being careful. No repeat of yesterday's isolation. When they entered Camilla's office, the older woman closed the door and turned. But her expression wasn't hostile. It was something else, almost. ... Concerned? I think we got off on the wrong foot yesterday, Camilla began, her voice softer than before. I may have come across more harshly than I intended, Kate blinked. This was unexpected. A different strategy. Manipulation disguised as reconciliation. Appreciate that, Kate said carefully. I understand the pressures we're all under. Camilla moved to her desk, picking up a crystal paperweight and examining it thoughtfully. You remind me of someone, she said. Strong-willed, independent. Those qualities can be admirable, but they can also be dangerous in our world. There it was, the warning wrapped in velvet. "I'm not trying to be dangerous," Kate said. "I'm just trying to serve my family and my country." Camilla set down the paperweight with a soft click. "Of course you are. But perception matters more than intention here. And lately, certain perceptions have been forming. Perceptions that you're trying to modernize things too quickly, that you're not respecting traditions." Kate felt anger flare in her chest but pushed it down. "What traditions specifically?" "The way things are communicated," Camilla said, turning to face her fully. "Decisions about the children's education, public appearances, the charities you support. All of these things have protocols, hierarchies. You seem to be bypassing them." Kate's mind worked quickly. This was the real accusation. Not that she'd done anything wrong, but that she dared to have opinions, to act without asking permission. "I've always consulted with William," Kate said firmly. "Any decisions regarding our family go through both of us." "Oh, William is wonderful, of course," Camilla replied with a thin smile. "But he doesn't always see the bigger picture. He's too close, too emotional about certain things." The subtle dig at William sent ice through Kate's veins. This wasn't just about controlling her. It was about undermining William too, separating them, making them doubt each other. "I think William sees things very clearly," Kate said, her voice steady, "especially when it comes to protecting our family." Camilla's eyes narrowed slightly. Message received. "Well," Camilla said after a long pause, "I hope we can work together more smoothly going forward. I'd hate for misunderstandings to become ... problems." The threat was unmistakable. "I'm sure we can find common ground," Kate said, though every instinct screamed at her to run. As she left Camilla's office, Kate's hands were shaking again. But this time, it wasn't from fear. It was from anger. From understanding. The pattern was crystal clear now. She pulled out her phone and texted James. "Need to meet. Now. 30 minutes later, they met in a small chapel on the palace grounds. Private. Sacred. Unlikely to be bugged. She tried the soft approach, Kate said without preamble. Apology mixed with warnings, making it seem like she's trying to help while actually threatening me. James nodded grimly. Classic technique. "Did you record it?" Kate's eyes widened. "Was I supposed to?" "From now on, yes," James said, pulling out a small device from his pocket. "This looks like a pen, but it's a voice recorder. Keep it in your pocket during any private meetings. Legal in your own defense if things escalate." Kate took the device, feeling its weight. Evidence. Protection. Power. "There's something else," James said, his expression darkening. "I did some digging on Margaret, the advisor who kept signaling Camilla during the meeting. She's been meeting with certain media contacts. Feeding stories." Kate's stomach dropped. "What kind of stories?" "About you," James said quietly. "Painting you as difficult, unstable. Sound familiar?" It was exactly what they'd done to Diana. The same playbook. The same tactics. They're preparing a campaign, Kate realized, making people doubt me before I even realize I'm under attack. "Exactly," James confirmed. "But we're ahead of them this time. We know what's coming." Kate looked at the chapel altar, at the stained glass filtering colored light across the stone floor. She thought of her children, of the kind of world she wanted them to inherit. "Then we need to move faster," she said, turning back to James with fire in her eyes. "No more playing defense." James smiled slightly. "What did you have in mind?" As Kate began to outline her plan, neither of them saw the small security camera hidden in the chapel's corner, a camera that shouldn't have been there. And somewhere in the palace, on a private monitor, someone was watching, listening. The war was no longer quiet. 3 days passed. 3 days of careful planning, quiet conversations, and strategic moves. Kate went about her public duties with a smile, but beneath the surface, she was building something. A defense, a network, a counterattack. She'd identified 5 staff members she could trust completely. People who'd been loyal to William for years, people who'd known Diana and remembered what had happened to her, Together, they began documenting everything. Every meeting, every slight, every suspicious interaction. But Kate knew documentation wasn't enough. She needed something bigger, something public that would shift the narrative before it could be. Controlled, that's when the idea came to her. She was sitting in the nursery with her youngest, watching him play with wooden blocks when she saw it, a children's book about kindness, about standing up for what's right even when it's hard. Kate picked up her phone and called her private secretary, one of the trusted five. "I want to plan a surprise event," she said. "A visit to the domestic abuse shelter we've been supporting. But I want it to be personal, real. No press announcement beforehand. We just show up with donations and spend time with the families." Her secretary was quiet for a moment. "That's not protocol, Your Royal Highness. Surprise visits need approval, especially two sensitive locations." "No," Kate said. "That's exactly why we're doing it this way. Get it arranged for tomorrow morning, early, before anyone can object." She hung up before the hesitation could turn into an argument. That night at dinner, William noticed the change in her. The determination set in her jaw. "You're planning something?" he said quietly. "I'm taking control of my own story," Kate replied, "before someone else writes it for me." William reached across the table and took her hand. "Whatever you need, I'm with you." The next morning arrived crisp and clear. Kate, dressed in casual, approachable clothes. No designer labels. No royal jewels. Just a woman ready to do real work. She arrived at the shelter with two trusted staff members. No press. No fanfare. Just Kate and boxes of supplies they'd purchased privately. The shelter director was shocked, but recovered quickly. Within minutes, Kate was sitting on the floor with children, reading stories, listening to mothers share their experiences, offering not just sympathy, but understanding. One woman, Sarah, pulled Kate aside. Her eyes were red from crying, but there was strength in her voice. "You don't know what it means," Sarah said, "to have someone like you just show up. No cameras. No performance. Just being here." Kate squeezed her hand. "I know what it's like to feel trapped. To feel like people are watching your every move, waiting for you to break. Maybe not in the same way, but I understand." Wow. Sarah's eyes widened with recognition. She'd seen the tabloid articles, the whispered rumors. She knew Kate wasn't just talking about these women. She was talking about herself. "You're brave," Sarah whispered. "So are you," Kate replied. They spent 3 hours at the shelter. Real time, meaningful connection. And though Kate had requested no press, someone had tipped off a photographer. A single shot was captured through a window. Kate on the floor, surrounded by children, laughing genuinely. By afternoon, the photo was everywhere. Social media exploded. The public fell in love with the realness of it. The authenticity. Headlines praised her spontaneous compassion. But back at the palace, the reaction was different. Kate was summoned to an emergency meeting. Senior advisors, protocol officers, and Camilla, sitting at the center of it all, her expression carefully neutral. "This was reckless," Margaret, the compromised advisor, said sharply. "Security wasn't properly vetted. Protocol wasn't followed. You put yourself at risk." "I put myself among people who needed support," Kate corrected calmly. "And I was perfectly safe." "That's not the point," Margaret pressed. "You circumvented proper channels. You made the family look disorganized." "I made the family look human," Kate countered. Her voice was steady, but there was steel beneath it. "And the public response speaks for itself." Camilla finally spoke. "The public response is irrelevant if you're putting yourself in danger. We have protocols for a reason, Catherine." Kate turned to face her directly. "Diana had protocols too. And look what good they did her." The room went silent. The name hung in the air like a ghost. Several people shifted uncomfortably. Camilla's expression barely changed, but her eyes flashed with something dangerous. "That's completely different," Camilla said quietly. "Diana's situation was what?" Kate interrupted, surprising everyone, including herself. Was tragic? Was avoidable? was the result of her being isolated and controlled until she had no choice but to break free. William appeared in the doorway. He'd arrived late, but he'd clearly heard enough. He walked directly to Kate's side. "My wife is right," he said firmly. "We've spent so long following protocols that we've forgotten why we exist. We're supposed to serve the people, not hide from them behind outdated rules." Margaret looked to Camilla for support, but the queen consort remained silent. The power dynamic in the room had shifted. Kate could feel it. Going forward, William continued, "Kate and I will be making joint decisions about our public engagements. We'll consult with security, of course, but we won't be seeking approval for every act of compassion." He looked around the room, meeting each person's eyes. "Is that clear?" One by one, they nodded. Even Margaret. Even Camilla. But Kate noticed something. Camilla's hands were clenched beneath the table, white-knuckled, furious. The battle had been won, but the war was far from over. As the meeting adjourned, Kate felt James's presence near the door. He gave her a subtle nod. Approval. Pride. She'd done it. She'd stood her ground. She'd used Diana's memory, not as a weapon, but as a shield. A reminder that history couldn't be allowed to repeat itself. Later that night, Kate sat in her private room, finally alone. She pulled out Diana's journal again, turning to a page near the end. "The day you stop being afraid," Diana had written, "is the day you truly become dangerous to them. Because fear is their greatest weapon. Take it away, and they have nothing." Kate closed the journal gently. She wasn't afraid anymore. But as she turned off the light, she didn't see the envelope that had been slipped under her door. An envelope with no name, no return address. Inside was a single photograph, and when she found it in the morning, everything would change again. Kate woke early, feeling lighter than she had in weeks. Yesterday had been a victory. Small, but significant. She'd proven she could stand up to pressure, that she could fight back. She was reaching for her robe when she noticed it. The white envelope on the floor by her door. Her stomach tightened immediately. Something about it felt wrong. Kate picked it up carefully, as if it might burn her. No name, no markings. Just expensive paper. She opened it slowly. Inside was a photograph. Black and white. Slightly grainy, clearly taken from a security camera. It showed Kate and James in the chapel, heads bent together in conversation. The angle made it look secretive, conspiratorial. Wrong. Kate's hands started shaking. This wasn't just a warning. It was a message. They'd been watching, recording, waiting. Below the photo was a single typed line. "Be careful who you trust." Kate's mind raced. Who sent this? Was it a threat from Camilla's camp? Or was it a warning from someone trying to help? The ambiguity was intentional, designed to make her paranoid. To make her doubt everyone, she immediately called William. He arrived within minutes, still in his running clothes. He'd been exercising in the private gym. His face went pale when he saw the photo. "We need to find out where this came from," he said tightly. "And we need to talk to James. Now." They found James in the security office, reviewing overnight footage. When they showed him the envelope, his jaw clenched. "This is from inside," he said grimly. "Someone with access to security feeds. Someone who knows which cameras to pull from. Can you trace it?" Kate asked. James was already typing on his computer. "I can see who accessed this footage. Give me a minute." They waited in tense silence. Kate could hear her own heartbeat. Everything they'd built, all their careful planning, suddenly felt exposed, vulnerable. "Got it," James said finally. His expression darkened. The footage was accessed 2 days ago by Margaret, of course. The compromised advisor. Kate had suspected, but having proof was different. "But here's the interesting part," James continued, pulling up more data. "Margaret accessed it, but she didn't download it. Someone else did, using her credentials. Someone who knew her password." "Who?" William demanded. James pulled up the IP address. Traced it through the Palace network. When the name appeared on screen, all three of them froze. It wasn't Camilla. It wasn't Margaret. It was someone they'd trusted. one of the 5 staff members Kate had brought into her inner circle. Andrew Williams, private secretary of 3 years? Kate felt like she'd been punched. No, she whispered. He was loyal. He knew Diana was compromised, James said quietly. Either threatened or bought. Maybe both. William's face had gone hard. Where is he now? He called in sick this morning, James said, checking the staff's schedule. First time in 2 years? Because he knew they'd figure it out. He'd sent the photo as a final act before disappearing. Kate sat down heavily. The betrayal cut deep. She'd been so careful, and still someone had gotten through. Still, someone had sold her out. Kate, William said gently, kneeling in front of her. This isn't your fault. I trusted him, she said, her voice breaking. I told him things. About our plans. About she stopped, a horrible realization dawning. About the shelter visit. I told him we were doing surprise visits. He must have tipped off the photographer. It all clicked into place. The perfect photo. The perfect angle. It wasn't luck. It was planned. They'd wanted her to have a public victory so they could document her methods, her network, her strategies. They're always 3 steps ahead, Kate said bitterly. No, James said firmly. They were 3 steps ahead. But now we know. And that changes everything. He pulled out his notebook, the one filled with observations and evidence. Andrew's betrayal actually gives us something valuable. Proof of a coordinated effort. Proof that your private information was being stolen and used against you. William stood, pacing. We go public with this. We expose the whole thing. Can't, Kate said, though it killed her to admit it. We don't have enough concrete evidence yet. Just suspicions, and one compromised staff member who's already gone. They'll spin it. Make me look paranoid. So what do we do? William asked, frustration clear in his voice. Kate stood slowly. Her mind was working again, moving past the hurt into strategy. We use it, she said. We let them think Andrew succeeded. We let them think we're rattled and scared. And while they're congratulating themselves, we build a real case. With evidence they can't refute. James smiled slightly. You're learning. Over the next 2 weeks, Kate played the perfect role. She was quieter at meetings. More deferential. She followed protocols exactly. She seemed subdued, beaten down. Camilla and her allies relaxed. They thought they'd won. Margaret even smiled at Kate in the hallway once, a patronizing little smirk. But beneath the surface, Kate was working. She'd brought in outside help. A digital security expert recommended by someone William trusted from his military days. Someone who had no palace connections. No loyalties to anyone but them. They secured Kate's communications. Found bugs in her private rooms. Discovered that her emails had been forwarded to external accounts for months. Every discovery made Kate angrier. But she channeled that anger into focus. Meanwhile, James was building a timeline. Every incident, every confrontation, every leaked story, the pattern was undeniable once you could see the full picture. And then they got lucky. Margaret made a mistake. She met with a tabloid journalist in a public cafe. One of Kate's new, truly loyal team members happened to be there. Photographed the meeting. Recorded the conversation on her phone. Margaret was clearly heard discussing managing the Kate problem and coordinating negative coverage. To remind her of her place. When Kate listened to the recording, she felt vindicated, angry, but mostly she felt ready. It's time, she told William. We have everything we need. They didn't go to the press. That would be too obvious. Too messy. Instead, William requested a private meeting with his father, King Charles. No advisors, no staff. Just family. Kate and William presented everything. The journal, the timeline, the evidence of surveillance, the recording of Margaret, the pattern of behavior that had started with Diana and continued with Kate. Charles listened in silence. His face grew graver with each revelation. When they finished, he sat back heavily in his chair. I knew there were tensions, he said quietly, but I didn't realize the extent. I didn't want to see it. We need this to stop, William said firmly. Not just for Kate, but for anyone who comes after. This pattern has to end. Charles nodded slowly. It will. Margaret will be dismissed. Effective immediately. And there will be a full internal review of staff with access to private quarters and communications. He turned to Kate and his eyes were kind. I'm sorry, he said simply. I should have protected you better. I should have learned from Diana. Kate felt tears prick her eyes. Thank you, she whispered. But Charles wasn't finished. He looked at both of them. There's one more thing that needs to happen. Camilla and I need to have a very serious conversation about boundaries and respect. This ends now. That evening, as Kate and William walked through the palace gardens, she felt something shift. Not victory exactly, but peace, resolution. Do you think it's really over? Kate asked. William squeezed her hand. The worst of it? Yes. There will always be challenges. Always be politics. But you've changed the game. You've proven you can't be broken. Kate thought about Diana's journal, about that guard in the corridor who'd stepped in at the perfect moment, about James and his years of silent watching, about all the people who'd helped her survive. I didn't do this alone, she said. No, William agreed. But you were brave enough to fight. That's what matters. 3 months later, Kate stood in that same corridor where it had all started. The place where Camilla had cornered her, where the fear had been sharpest. But now, walking through it, Kate felt different. Stronger. She'd faced the worst they could throw at her and survived. More than survived. She'd changed the system. Margaret was gone. Andrew had been dealt with. Camilla was noticeably more distant, more careful. The palace had new protocols about privacy and respect, and Kate was still standing, still working, still being the voice for those who needed one. She smiled as she walked past the spot where the guard had intervened. Officer James Daniels had been promoted. He now oversaw all security for Kate's family personally. History hadn't repeated itself after all. It had been rewritten as Kate emerged from the corridor into sunshine. She heard her children laughing in the distance. William was playing with them in the garden. She thought about Diana one last time, about the journal entry that had given her so much strength, and then she let it go. The past was honored. The lessons were learned, but the future? The future was hers too, right? And she was just getting started.